Hello everyone! I hope you're ready for another adventure, because today Wayne continues to read Runaway Ralph. Always remember that as we go through these amazing stories and read these outstanding adventures, all you have to do is press the CC button in your YouTube link in order to follow along with the stories. Now I think that Bumblebee will be perfect to join us for today's adventure. Now that Bumblebee's here, let's jump in. Runaway Ralph, Chapter 3, An Educational Toy. Ralph did not rest long. On your feet, Mouse, said the gopher, appearing in the dark recess of the gopher run. You can go now. Do I have to? Pleaded Ralph nervously, eyeing the gopher's long, curving teeth. I've come a long way and I need a days to sleep. Go on. Beat it. The gopher stared at Ralph with nearsighted eyes. This is my run, and I don't need it cluttered up with mice. Please. Ralph tried to sound pitiful. I'm just a little mouse, and I had a long trip. I know you mice, answered the gopher. You are little, and you look helpless, but when you move in, you take over. Then, he added, in a more kindly tone, anyway, you had better get going while you can. That dog will eat his breakfast, go off on his round on inspection, and then when he sees all the dirt he churned up, he'll start digging again. Maybe you're right, admitted Ralph, who was not eager to share the tunnel with a grouchy gopher. He pushed his motorcycle up toward the circle of light that was the entrance of the gopher run. There he paused until his eyes became accustomed to the sunlight. A stray chicken wandered across the yard under the walnut trees. A horse whinnied from the barn, and from the dining hall came the laughter and chatter of boys and girls, and the clatter of silverware. The place seemed safe enough at the moment. Ralph permitted himself a leisurely but bumpy ride along the path that led to small weathered buildings shaded by an arbor of grapevines. At the corner of the building, he found a clump of bamboo, which offered a possibility of shelter. The fallen leaves and husks of young bamboo shoots were broad and smooth, and dried edges curled. He laid his motorcycle at the foot of the bamboo and pulled a husk over it. The edges curled around it so it had hidden completely, but he put his helmet under another husk, and too tried to scrounge for food. Ralph crawled under the third husk. Ralph curled himself into a cozy ball. The leaves beneath him were springy. The hush above him was smooth and soaking and curled protectively around him. Ralph had not been so comfortable for a long, long time. A delicious fragrance of hot cakes drifted from the dining hall, reminding Ralph that the dining room of the Mountain View Inn. The campers began to sing. The horses stand around, their feet are on the ground. Oh, who will wind the clock while I'm away? Ralph wondered if Matt had wound the clock in the lobby. Perhaps Matt was searching the broken motorcycle in the shrubbery at the foot of the steps of the Mountain View Inn. Well, he wouldn't find it. Now all Ralph wanted was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Ralph slept more soundly than he had ever slept before. The next thing Ralph knew, a weight was pressing him into the bamboo leaves. He squirmed, but the weight pressed harder. He heard a cat's voice say, "Now watch carefully. This is how you handle a mouse." The greeting opened Ralph's eyes in a hurry. He saw to his horror that he was pinned to the leaves by a paw of a cold-hearted tomcat and was surrounded by a mother cat and a litter of wide-eyed kittens. Ralph simply closed his eyes again and tried to pretend he was not there. He could not believe what was happening. Cats were something that had happened to other mice, not to Ralph. Now he wished he had listened to his mother when she tried to warn him, as she often did, about cats, owls, people's poisons, traps, poison grain, and vacuum cleaners. "Children, pay attention," said the mother cat to her kittens. "A live mouse is an interesting and instructive plaything." Mel felt quite miserable enough without having the educational as well. "Now watch this," said the tomcat. The weight was removed from Ralph's body. A paw scooped him up and tossed him into the air. Nothing like this had ever happened to Ralph before. He landed on his feet and stood frozen with terror, facing the cat. He waited with every muscle tense for the cat to pounce, but nothing. The cat, who wore an interesting expression on his horrible furry face, simply sat and watched. Ralph was aware of campers leaving the dining hall and scattered to different parts of camp. He dared not look at him. If he watched, his chance might be able to make a run for it. The cat, apparently distracted by a butterfly, glanced away. Ralph leaped for freedom, but only to be brought to earth by a paw. "That's the way to do it," said the tomcat. "Mice are stupid creatures who are easily fooled." Ralph lay limp and still, the cat's evil claws curling around his body. If Ralph moved even a hair's breadth, he would be stabbed in 5 places. "Maybe if I play dead, they will go away," he thought. Children walked in and out of the screen door nearby, but no one came to rescue the small brown mouse behind the bamboo. "He's trying to play dead," explained the tomcat, "but when I feel his heart beating beneath my paw." Unfortunately, there was nothing Ralph could do about his heartbeat. If he ever got away from this cat, he would be a better mouse. He would listen to his mother, warned him about cats, owls, people's traps, poison, grain, and vacuum cleaners. He would set a good example for his little brothers and sisters and cousins. Children, forget that butterfly and watch closely, instructed the mother cat. This is the scoop and toss play, explained the tomcat, and the next thing Ralph knew, he had been scooped up by the cat's paw and tossed in the air. He managed to land on all fours in the bamboo leaves, but he was too terrified of Clawed Paw to move. The attention of the kittens, he was pleased to see, had wandered. One rolled over and tried to catch his tail. Another scampered off after a leaf. A third trotted off after a girl, who picked him up and carried him away. The tomcat appeared to lose interest in Ralph and sat calmly, his tail curled around his feet, looking at the leaves, fluttering at the bamboo stalks. He thinks he's got me fooled, thought Ralph. If he moved, the cat was sure to pounce. If he did not move, the cat would pounce anyway. There was no way Ralph could win. He was doomed to be the mid-morning snack for a cat. Luckily, Ralph did not have to make a decision. There was a sudden whacking noise of fallen leaves, and a cloud of something light and soft settled over him. Then he found himself being tumbled about as he was lifted off the ground. "Good for you, Garf," said a woman's voice. "What kind of butterfly did you catch?" "It isn't a butterfly," answered the boy. "It's a mouse. I rescued him from Catso." By now, Ralph managed to get his feet down and his head up so he could see what he was suspended in the air in some sort of net. Through the mesh, he could see a plump, cheerful woman who was wearing slacks and a blouse. He could also see the boy, the same boy who had clumped through the Mountain View Inn, in new cowboy boots, and was now holding him so ignominiously in a butterfly net. Better a net than a paw, thought Ralph philosophically, because he felt like there was this boy, there was hope. Boys like mice. "A mouse," explained the woman. "You caught a mouse in a butterfly net?" "Yes," answered the boy. "I'm going to keep him." "Where?" wondered Ralph. "In his pocket?" He hoped so. A boy's pocket was apt to be dark and warm and full of crumbs. The cat, cheated of his prey, stalked off with his tail in the air, trying to pretend in a most dignified manner that he did not want the mouse anyway. "Good," said the woman enthusiastically, surprising Ralph. All women he had known, the housekeeper, maids, guests of the hotel, referred to mice as nasty creatures or pesky rodents, and from Ralph's point of view, spent their time trying to outwit perfectly harmless little animals. "We can find a place for him in our nature corner," suggested the woman, who Ralph decided must be Aunt Jill Sam had mentioned. "Come on into the craft shop. I'm sure to have an old cage somewhere." Ralph was disappointed. He had looked forward to a dark, crummy pocket. At the same time, he was anxious. It was as if he had to be trapped in a cage. How could he get back to his motorcycle? The screen door creaked as it opened, and Ralph found himself looking through the net at a room with long work tables and walls lined with shelves full of boxes, jars, and odds and ends. Seated on the bench were three girls who were busy braiding long, thin strips of colored plastic. They appeared to ignore the boy until the woman rummaged around on the shelves and produced a small wire cage with an exercise wheel inside and a bottle of water fastened to the end. Suddenly, the girls were interested. "What's the cage for, Aunt Jill?" asked one of them as the three bumped up to the bench. "Garf caught a mouse in his butterfly net," explained Aunt Jill. "He wants to keep it." "In a butterfly net?" The girls found this feat funny. Let me see, they begged. Ralph found himself being poked out of the net into the cage. The door was closed behind him and fastened. He scurried behind the exercise wheel, where he sat trembling, partly from fright, partly from relief from being safe from a cat. "Isn't he darling?" cried the girls, their faces large and close to the cage bars. "Isn't he sweet? Those teeny tiny paws, look at those itsy bitsy paws. Those teeny tiny ears, look at those itsy bitsy paws." Ralph looked for help towards the boy, who stepped aside and now stood scowling behind the screen door. "Aunt Jill, can we feed the mouse?" begged the girls. "Please let us feed him." Ralph turned his back and curled up into the smallest ball possible. "The mouse belongs to Garfield," said Aunt Jill. "He gets to feed his own mouse." "Skip it." Ralph thought Garf sounded angry. He heard the boy's footsteps leave the crowd shop and the screen door slam as it opened and closed. "What's the matter with him?" asked one of the girls, who sounded as if she did not really care. "Girls, do you know what I think we should do?" asked Aunt Jill. "I think we should all help Garfield enjoy the camp. This is his first time away from home, and he doesn't know anyone here. I think he's lonely." "But he's mean," protested the girl with the sunburned nose. "He just stays off by himself." "There's nothing mean about that," Aunt Jill pointed out. "I know," admitted the girl, "but, I don't know. Anyway, Garf is a funny name." "Maybe he doesn't think so," said Aunt Jill. Ralph could feel one of the girls trying to poke her fingers through the bar of his cage. "At meals, he won't talk or sing," she said, jabbing Ralph with a stick. "He just eats and then gets up and walks out." Ralph tried to draw himself into a tighter ball. "See, he's outside just standing there," said another girl. "Certainly doing something," she remarked. "I think Garf should take care of the mouse." Ralph made up his mind not to budge. If he stayed perfectly still, sooner or later they would go away and let him enjoy the peace and quiet of his nice, safe cage. Then, maybe Garf would come back. He might even think of bringing a corner of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Then Ralph would simply explain to Garf that he needed to get out of the cage because he had to take care of his motorcycle. He was quite sure that Garf could understand, for he looked like the kind of boy who was interested in speed and motorcycles, and who would know how to make a miniature motorcycle go. Wow, that is a really cool place to end today's story. What did you think about that, Bumblebee? I like that part too. We'll see you on the next adventure, okay? And we'll see you on the next adventure, here with Wayne Reads. Thank you for joining us and can't wait to see you again. Bye-bye.